Hello, vinyl fans. Welcome to another episode of Let's Clean a Record. I am your cleaning guy. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into AIVS record cleaning fluids and enzymatic formulas. We're going to put a very dirty record through a rigorous cleaning process. The record we've chosen is this one, Horowitz. We love Horowitz. I think he's the most improvisational classical pianist that ever lived and just one of the all-around finest musicians that ever graced this world. I'll tell you, I really dig his stuff. I've not listened to this record. It's his concerts from 1979 to 1980. It was released, I believe, in 1981. So we'll let you know how that one works out. But before we get to cleaning this record, keep in mind there is now less than 30 days to annual record cleaning day. So you folks with record clean machines, get out there to your local record stores and set them up on the second Saturday in September. One of our listeners, I thought it was pretty cool. He's a young guy and he really doesn't have the money for all these fancy machines, but he does have the Disc Doctor and a Spin Clean, and he's going to go to an open air market and clean records for free. I think that's pretty cool. In any case, let's get to it. We're going to do that deep dive on AIVS and clean this record. Okay, fellas, Audio Intelligence Vinyl Solutions, that's what we're working with today. AIVS recommends a three-step approach for heavily soiled records, which is certainly what we're dealing with today. The first step is a pre-soak, and for that process, they recommend to use one of three of their products, either a pure enzymatic formula, this one, or half enzymatic and half record cleaning fluid, which is their number 15 formula, or one that we don't have in the studio is their number 6 formula, which is just a straight record cleaning fluid on the lighter side. The idea of choosing between those three would depend on how much organic material is on the vinyl. If the record has a lot of organic material, you probably want to go with the enzymatic formula. If maybe you smell some smoke on it or something like that, the number 15 is probably your best choice. And if it's just general dirt that you need to take a few steps to completely remove, the number 6 will probably work just fine, although I admit I've never tried the number 6. The second step then is to actually use the record cleaning fluid. Once the pre-soak is through, you have two choices, either this super cleaner formula, which does contain isopropyl alcohol, or one they call Premium Archivist, I think that's the way you would pronounce it. That formula has no isopropyl alcohol. We haven't tried that one yet, but I look forward to trying it someday. And then the third step would, of course, be a pure water rinse. Now, as you might notice, we have 4 bottles out in front of us. I've used these products long enough to believe that actually a 4-step process is a bit superior. And here's the reason why. If we start with something like the number 15 formula, just with a pre-soak, and don't agitate it much at all, and frankly only allow the suction type machine to bring up the fluid quickly, you're going to leave a residue of surfactant behind on the record. That's a good thing for this enzymatic formula because there's no surfactant in here. And if you try to put it just on the record as a first step, I find that you have to use a ton of it to cover the entirety of the record, so much that it sloshes up all over the side. No good. So I like to start with the number 15. I'll bet the number 6 would do the exact same thing. It would leave some surfactant on the vinyl and then go to the enzymatic. Then we'll hit it with the super clean. Then we'll do it with the pure water rinse. And we'll show you, hopefully, a lack of dirt in the groove, and we'll give it a listen and tell you what we think. Okay, let's get to it. Let's clean this record. By the way, fellas, all the products that we're using today, those that we talked about today, are intended for either a suction type machine, like our VPI, or a string type machine. We have Loracraft, but would also work on a Keith Monk's. They do make all kinds of products, AIVS does, so check out their website. This record is very dirty, so we're going to start with both a carbon brush and the Giotto Blaster before we put it on the machine. So. Yikes, this one is nasty. From the dollar bins. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to start with number 15, but as a pre-soak, you don't want to really agitate it all that much, and you don't want to let it sit on the record for more than 5 minutes. You can see how there's just enough surfactant in the number 15 formula that it spreads nicely across the surface of the vinyl. Very light agitation here. Alright, we will give that 5 minutes and then come back and remove the liquid from the record. So you'll notice we only allowed a few revolutions. I want to make sure that there's still some surfactant on the surface of the disc. It will aid the enzymatic formula in spreading out evenly. We hope. Let's see. Still need a fair bit of it. Again, a very light agitation. We'll let that soak for 4 or 5 minutes and bring it off the record. Okay. Now it's time for the standard record cleaning fluid. In our case, we're going to go with the super cleaner formula. It does have isopropyl alcohol. here you can scrub a little harder. We want to agitate this, get those bubbles going, but it's still a light touch. You don't want to drive the dirt deeper into the groove. You want to lift it up out. Of course, as always, don't forget to hit the run out and run in groove specifically. Last step, pure water rinse. By the way, fellas, if you've seen this in previous episodes, you might have noted this, but I'll point it out again. On all of these columns for the VPI suction machine, we have the original VPI velvet lips, if you will, the strips on each side there. However, for pure water, I much prefer these aftermarket strips. They're from Disc Doctor. Wonderful job they do, but I like the original VPIs better with the record clean fluids. And yes, we do use separate brushes for each step. They're not that expensive, and it kind of helps prevent cross-contamination. That looks pretty nice. Now I'll just shut up and clean side 2. Let's go give it a listen, and we'll let you know what we think. Okay, final thoughts and for the record. First, from a musical perspective, this was wonderful. I am a huge fan of Horowitz. In fact, if I ever have any buddies or online friends who are into jazz and maybe just dipping their toe into the classical world, I always recommend Horowitz. Of course, with classical and romantic music, they're playing the notes that are written on the page, but I'll tell you, he really brings an improvisational spirit to the way he plays it different every time. From an audio quality perspective, I was pretty impressed. These early 80s RCA Red Seal pressings are not known as high-quality audiophile pressings, but this was fantastic. It sounded beautiful. Let's talk about AIVS. We are big fans of AIVS. If you've seen our past episodes, we use the number 15 formula fairly frequently. Also a big fan of Laura Dusson. It's been some time, however, since we've used just a pure AIVS approach, and it worked beautifully. Dead silent background, no pops or clicks whatsoever. I do recommend, however, deviating from the manufacturer's suggested way of using it. Instead of a 3-step process, I definitely recommend a 4-step process. You want to get something on the to leave a surfactant layer before you apply that enzymatic formula. Otherwise, it's just going to bead up in the middle of the vinyl. So you want that to be able to spread out for your 5-minute soak. But it did a great job. Fantastic. So highly recommended, both the record and AIVS. We'll see you at the next record.